My name is Jordan McCarl, and I'll be giving my informative speech for Comms 101. At 6 years old, Jim was a very intelligent young boy. He was always playing outside. He loved to learn about plants and animals, and especially about the way that things worked. However, when Jim was put into a classroom, his entire attitude towards learning shifted. He found that he couldn't get excited about it, and even though he was intelligent enough, he began to really struggle. Lucky enough, Jim was blessed with a teacher who recognized that he had his own strengths and weaknesses, and she was able to differentiate her instruction with him. Because of this, Jim became successful. He learned not only that he was a kinesthetic learner, but most importantly that he could rely on people like his teacher to help him in ways that he didn't feel like he could rely on his family at home. Everyone here has had to learn something at some point in their lives. Often the way that we are taught impacts the way we learn. An understanding of the importance of a good education early on and on differentiated instruction and learning styles play their part that is necessary for not only us, but possibly for our future children. These things are close to my heart, and because of that, I currently am studying elementary education at Liberty University now and for the next 3 years. Because education is something that affects almost everyone, I believe that teaching is a vital vocation that can use differentiated instruction and learning styles to help students and is a tool for representing Christ and spreading His message. I intend to make this plain by showing you that teaching is a helping profession. Differentiated instruction and learning styles recognize students as individuals and seek to help each one. And teachers make an impact for Christ even without being allowed to speak His name. What are some ways that someone has ever helped you? They've probably assisted you in something with the end result of either advancing you further in some way or causing a change for the better. This is exactly what teachers do. Teachers are advocates for their students. They must give time and energy to support, help, and sometimes even defend their students. Every teacher is going to have days that they don't feel like being a good teacher. However, they all have to put these emotions aside and create an environment that their kids can learn in. They have to put off a disposition that makes them approachable to their students, and they have to make a very conducive room. Things happen, and teachers are in no way immune to struggles. But along with having to constantly watch the way that their emotions are and the way they're presenting themselves to their students, they also have to constantly be learning. It's very common for a teacher to take a bunch of classes throughout their career. This is especially important since you're going to have to renew your license every 2 to 5 years. According to Beth Ackerman, differentiated instruction is a new way of thinking and teaching in which a teacher adapts the learning to student. A learning style is a specific way that a student learns. There's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Kinesthetic means that you're touching things, you're working with your hands, while visual is through learning through seeing and auditory is through hearing. By recognizing that each student learns in a different way, that teacher has the opportunity to go in and help a student in a way that is specific to them. They also can recognize that if a student is struggling, that maybe they shouldn't just write them off as lazy or dumb, but that they might be struggling in the way that they're learning, and they need to just change their curriculum up and teach them in a way that affects them and makes them to understand. By taking the time to be aware of each student individually and not writing any of them off, we reflect Christ in the fact that He has not written any of us off and helps each of us in the way that we need. A teacher who's working in a public school will rarely have the opportunity to represent Christ directly with their words. However, teachers can greatly impact their students' parents, and their co-workers by holding themselves and their classrooms to a standard of Christian values. Many students are not used to having people in their lives who conduct themselves with patience and consistency and their rules, and experiencing that from a teacher can cause them to ask the questions of what's different about them, what do they have that I don't. As well as their students, teachers can really impact their students' parents. They have the unique opportunity of being in a student's life as much as or more than a parent is, depending on how often these students tend to aftercare and things like that. Because of this, you'll obviously have an effect on the way that the student acts and the way they go home and the things that they know. If a parent sees that their student has changed in a way, it could cause them to ask what you're doing, and they can ask why you're putting so much effort into their kid. as well as your coworkers seeing your heart for it. Helping and investing each child the way that Christ has helped us speaks so much louder than words sometimes. Finally, let's take a look back at Jim. What you didn't know at the beginning was that Jim had a really hard home life. His parents were going through a divorce, and everything felt unstable. Everything except for his teacher, who was patient and kind and taught him every day. Because that teacher invested in him, years later he accepted Christ. It is plain to see that teachers are not only vital, but that they can be effective in representing Christ by constantly being a direct help to their students, paying attention to each one's individual needs, holding themselves to a Christian standard, loving and investing in each of their students, and each teacher can represent Christ even without being allowed to speak his name. That's the end of my speech. Thanks.